And welcome back. You're just in time for What's Hot, where we talk about the stories that have us all talking.
We are joined today by Tracy Johnson from Tempo Milwaukee, and Jeff Wagner is back. Lawmaker Don Pridemore backing a controversial proposal which would allow citizens to arm themselves and volunteer at schools in hopes of preventing a Newtown-type attack in the future. Is this a good idea or a bad idea?
And Don Pridemore also running for basically the state school superintendent as well on top of it.
Well, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, now there's a couple caveats here. I mean, obviously, first of all, this is something a local school board should have to decide they want. Secondly, I mean, obviously there have to be like training requirements and background checks and things like that. But for example, if you've got a group of retired police officers in a community who decide, hey, this is like how they'd like to spend some time and they're willing to do it, I don't see a downside to this.
Well, I think it sounds good in theory. And if you've got all these officers and these retired military personnel that want to give their time, right, that's great in the first year. But how do you sustain this? And then how do you pick the winners and losers as to which schools are going to be receiving these volunteers? And then you have the added responsibility of making sure that all these volunteers are trained up to par, that they don't have any mental issues. Or I think the sustainability of this is going to be really difficult to manage.
I think it's a slippery slope. I like Jeff's idea, you know, retired police officers or maybe an off-duty police officer who wants, you know, to do something in their off time, but yeah,
you've got to have some standards in place to make sure the people that are in the school with guns are people who you can really trust.
Sure, but I mean, keep in mind, we have people in schools nowadays with guns. I mean,
they're sworn law enforcement officers.
Exactly. I mean, right. But you know, if you're talking about that versus a volunteer who's a retired, you know, police officer, is that really that different? Again, assuming you've got the background checks and things like that. I do agree sustainability is an issue, and as a practical matter, maybe this won't be able to be worked out because you won't get enough volunteers. But you know, at the same time, these people who are just actually freaked out, oh, we can't have firearms in schools, I don't think it's fair to go that far.
No, and I think if, you know, in volunteer situations, I don't want to say you necessarily get what you pay for, but I can just see this turning into a whole nother bureaucracy that someday down the road we're going to have to manage and handle. So I like where they're starting in terms of theory, but I think it needs a little more kinks worked out.
Just real quick, I also want to say that even in spite of, you know, everything that happened in Newtown, you know, Connecticut, and how horrible that was, schools are pretty safe nowadays. I mean, I really don't think there's this overwhelming need that you have to have armed people in every school all across the country. This was a freak occurrence, a horrible occurrence, but a freak occurrence, and sometimes you need to keep some perspective.
All right, end of topic one right there. Coming up next, a warning from Oak Creek Police after several purse thefts. Is it okay to ask women to leave their purse at home so they don't become a victim of crime? By Tracy Johnson from Tempo Milwaukee and Jeff Wagner from News Radio 620 WTMJ. Police in Oak Creek urging women to bring their debit cards, their credit cards, and their coupons in cash. Stick that in your pocket. Leave the purse at home. There have been several purse thefts there. Women leave home with their purse and probably every time. Is it a good idea for police to say, hey, you know what, just stop bringing it and you won't be a victim to crime?
Look, I have a lot of respect for the Oak Creek Police Department. They've had more than their share of issues over the last year, but here's the simple truth. There's not enough ums and dum to describe this. I mean, telling a woman to leave her purse at home is like telling a guy to give up the remote. It just doesn't happen. I mean,
I hate having my purse at the grocery store, though, because you don't want to carry it on your shoulder and you can't leave the cart.
Well, right.
So I prefer just to pocket the list and a credit card and go.
Oh, my God. Oh.
But you don't need the police to tell you that,
no.
I think. But whether you're in Oak Creek or Wauwatosa or Mequon or Milwaukee, ladies, use common sense.
Right. I think they need to send out the use common sense recommendation.
So, Courtney, so you're saying,
on.
wait a second, let's go back. You're saying you're going to go out of the house without, okay, you're just going to take some money. So who knows what you're going to do with your cell phone or your BlackBerry or your makeup?
Well, in the winter, I don't need makeup for the grocery store. Hey, you know what?
Oh, my God.
Wait a minute. I am not in aisle 7
roll.
applying lipstick, Jeff Wagner.
No, I
cell phone goes in a jacket pocket. I take a credit card, my driver's license, and my list. And
she's lower maintenance than you are, Jeff.
Well,
apparently.
Okay, there's women watching us going, that Courtney doesn't go out without a purse. Come on. I have been around women my entire life, and most women I know live, most of them I know live out of their purses.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
come on. Right.
But you know, there's this crossbody option that I'm a huge fan of. Put it under your jacket. But here's the deal. Don't leave it in the grocery cart.
Sure.
Don't leave it attached to the stroller. Use common sense.
And one of these days we'll talk about the women who carry purses that could be used as personal flotation devices in case of an emergency water leak.
Right, or, you know, defense weapons.
We work with a couple of them. No names, though. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.